Hello, my name is Gabriel. Here I'm going to share with you information about the Howard Benson Sim. A quick introduction of the layout here. The amp has the same sort of thing most amps have. For example, input, gate, tuner, stomp box section, amplifier, cabinet section, MIDI, and output. Let me explain to you about installing the Sim over your previous Sim if you owned it already or had it installed, because it's going to erase it. It's going to show up missing on your DAW, and you're going to have to resort to finding a way to get the old presets loaded here, because the presets, everything that was done before on the Sim is retained 100%. They just added new features on it. So let's get this going. Something changed. Before we even get started, the input listener will change the input gain based on the kind of pickups you have. If you have vintage pickups on the first one, it's low. Medium is humbuckers like my Les Paul here. But active humbuckers, active pickups, go on the third one because they're louder. Okay, I advise people who use active, shut off the active pickups just to dial in and turn them on. You can flick around between the differences here, because you will lose dynamics with any amp if you have that plus overdrive and all that compression, unless you want that. You know, some things are cool. Anyway, so that's changed, that's new. Then of course the gate, everything else has been improved. The amp now, I have a screen here, you can see the photo of all this stuff. Marshalls, a Fender amp and an Ampeg bass amp here to cover all the ranges of the main guitar tones for rock and roll, blues, and anything like that. The Wizard, the Bogners, they're based on specific Marshalls, okay? And the main Marshall, the red one, number 3, based on very nice Marshall. When you dial it in correctly, it's not just any amp, it's a good amp. I described it as a sweet, aggressive to a very monstrous Marshall. Fiddle around with bright, switch, treble, and presence. Even at low volume, it's all in the hands afterward. A unique sound, helping you stand out in the mix. But it is 50% Marshall, 40% you, 10% your guitar and pickups. In the effects section, stomp boxes look the same to me. I don't think they've done anything to this. You have your TS9 type of screamer, which actually I can get my SD1s from Japan to sound very close to, even though there's a TS9s are symmetrical and SD1 MXR Plus are asymmetrical, like Marshall Plexis are. And when putting them in front of the amps, like you modded them, you know. It has a delay and it has a reverb. Now, a lot of people who see the effects section think that there's only pedals and there's no effects after or in the effects loop of the amp, which is far from the case. Here you can see that the pedals have a pre and post switch on them. Pre is like if you put the pedal in front of your amp, and a little harsh, a little more compressed, right? You know. goes into the preamp. And post would be more like a guitar effects loop. Everyone would love to have more options. In this case, the amp STL had changed the graphical interface of the speakers. New version has 2. There are improvements. The cabs, the history again with the cabinet section is interesting. The cabinet section used to have a layout that was in West Valley Studios. They changed it. The layout was really cool. I liked it personally. I thought it was the only sim in the world that had a layout of the actual studio the amp lived in and all the amps that are in the suite. And they changed it and they put 1 cone and with the mic placement thing. And but now they put 2 cones. You have 2 IRs. Okay, so now we have more options. Your old presets are preserved. Everything is fine. So forth and so on. The notable changes with the sim, aside what everything I said, is the input listener and MIDI. Okay, now the MIDI section is pretty interesting. It's very responsive. I have tested it with the Behringer FCB Key Multimedia, and I've tested it by some chocolate MIDI interface at $13 in China. And I even went all wireless with the stuff, and the response was perfect. I can use the expression pedal to turn up the gain, do crazy stuff that it's almost impossible with real amps. This is taking amps to another level. And so there are a lot of other sims that already have these features. It's cool. And this is the blue board. You know, I turn it on A. I don't know why. It's got an expression pedal, $10, 10 euros or whatever. This thing, you know, you can get something like this in AliExpress for $15, you know. Maybe Trump will knock off the tariffs. Anyway, you go into your settings here. Maybe it's already set up, I don't know. And you scan. This is my Gabriel Blue board, okay? So you see now it's set up and all that. It's shutting on and off. And I got the expression pedal. Where is it over there? That up and down. Okay. So it's my expression pedal. All right. Blue board. And then when you go to the amp, I have to connect it. So you go into if you go to the amp, you go to the I/O setup and you connect your iRig, for example. And now you'll see that I can change presets or turn off the effects and stuff like that. Okay. See that? Oh. Let me get to the pedals. I think one of them changed the pedal section. Okay, so that changing the knob. You can see that if I turn this, I had set this up to turn the bass knob. Don't ask me why. Just being a punk, I guess. Okay, let me explain why. Okay, but if you go here, you can say MIDI learn preset. Cancel. All right, you can go here and do the same thing with this global, and then as soon as you touch something, all these knobs now turn together. Imagine what you can do. You can turn everything to 11. So in any case, my point is that I control, actually I have a couple of different types of pedals. And I control Crybabies and stuff like that on the computer. I know everybody in the, everybody. I know everybody. Even the cat runs away when he sees. Okay, so. Yeah, she runs away when she hears the Crybaby. Last thing she. So it's very simple to set up, and then you can go into your Midi section here and kind of like, remove them and whatever. And you see now I have the expression pedals here and so forth and so on. I'm not even an expert at this. Somehow I got it to work. All right, so the presets on this sim are very sufficient. They provide exactly what anyone needs, any producer or guitar player needs to get the job done in the studio or even live. Presets are up here, and you can save your own bank basically, which ends up in your user documents folder. The STL folder there has the Howard Benson STL tonality in there in a preset folder. I'm out of breath. Any case, it's very tricky though. All sim companies are very different with presets and kind of like weird. I never found one that I liked, but as ugly as it is, who cares about it? That is the situation with the interface here. But this is a very, very good sounding amp. It's becoming a staple in people's studios all over the world. Even YouTubers who review amps have revealed to me that they only use this amp. All the other amps can't match to this. I have done a top 10 Marshall comparisons video in the past. This sim turned out to become #1 as I went. It just went to the top. And then I tried to match all the other sims to this sim and I couldn't. And so then I EQ matched them all. And I started to notice the other sims were missing a lot of harmonics. A lot of high gain sims sound great and all, but you don't get any dynamics once that's all killed with over compression, high gain. This sim can do that too. I've compared it and it's the case. So long story short, the great thing about EQ matching was that this amp pushes so many harmonics you can feel and hear the weaknesses of the other amp. The issue with this sim in the past was, finding some other sim to complement it, and I ended up just using the sims in the other Bogner and stuff like that inside for background rhythm tracks to complement the solo. I'm going to give you guys audio files so you can compare your other sim to it, just for amp sim comparison's sake. If you have Logic, you can do EQ matching. If they put back the West Valley Studio layout and allow 6 IRs and a possible room position like they have with the STL Ignite Libra. Especially if you add AI and analyzing how it sits in the mix, you won't have to figure anything out. The position of the mic will be in the right place, it'll find frequency, and you will have all the options to adjust it. Maybe I'm giving away an idea, but I have also pedals on the floor, Crybaby from Hell, a regular SD1 from Japan, as I mentioned many times, an SD1 modified by Sonic Fields, giving me all these options between both symmetrical and asymmetrical, TS9 and an SD1. And I have a noise suppressor. Now while I did all this, I didn't use any of this stuff. It's basically to compare what's in the box, you know, aside the Crybaby. But sometimes I step on the Crybaby to hear if I can push certain high pitch or low pitch and how it comes out, stuff like that. Nice if STL tones added this into the tonality suite. I don't know if they have this on the rented versions where they have all the amp sims and stuff. Before the head of this sim, you can add any effects you want up here. You can add Logic pedals, you can add this. I'm using, for example, the amp blocker sim. I'm muting all the stuff because I like the sim. You might like Neural DSP or something else, or another STL tone sim. Post effects, you can add that too, or you should use your console's buses for post effects. That's what they're there for, and for parallel track. Or you probably don't even need these effects with this sim when you're recording. But if you're goofing around or whatever, it's nice to have this or Patchwork, so you can just rip, call up some templates and just experiment. Patchwork's a very good platform. So you can put a load of effects. I've got all kinds of stuff here, making this even more trippier and trippier and trippier. And you can go off to the races with unlimited tone quests, if you want to call it that. I've got the main Marshall stuff in here, of course, and I've got this ambient stuff. I've got, I don't know, maybe I've got some more ambient stuff I put something. Check it out. Really works great with additional plugins. I found this plugin. If you want to add even more mods to the Howard Benson, it should be mentioned that it's really killer. I mean, you've got all the different types of tubes here, and it's free. You can go to Hornet and get it. And the thing is, this episode, sonically, reliable, if you want to put it that way. Now, a lot of people capture great amps, you know, it's 2025, we have NAM, we have Tonex, we have a lot of stuff out there that captures really good amps. What amps are they though? I mean, sometimes they're captured in a nice dialed in spot, but I highly recommend every guitar player has this. It's not even a matter of taste, because at first I overlooked it myself. I thought it was so simple. I didn't see things that I saw in other Sims. I had to record, I had to go back to it. And it was really interesting. Okay, so this list that I made for 2025 is basically the top Marshall Sims. And you have 3 different types of ways of finding the right one for yourself. I mean, besides the price, if money is not an issue here, then you want a Sim that you can actually dial in, you know, turn up the treble and hear your amp boost, so on and so on. Put something in front of it, hear the way it acts. Control the dynamics basically, so you have your own unique sound, so you don't sound like you're using the same Sim as everyone else. You need a full Sim. Other than that, everything else is just a one-dimensional capture with an EQ interface, which is not good because you really need to dial in the EQ in front of the amp. Each knob is like a boost on Marshalls. That's what makes them unique and growl, besides the speakers and all this other stuff. Okay, so here on this list you have, again, our Benson, a Kawasa, but these are picked because of 2 reasons. They're Sims that you can dial in, and they have beautiful voices. They were good amps, they were captured. These are amps that, like I said before, in the past, 10 Marshalls in the same room, 10 Plexis, and only 2 of them like strike you like, wow. Magic combination of pots and diodes and whatever it is. They're all the same stock amps, but it's the way they were. And, or the aging of the tubes or whatever the case is. But in any case, that's the one main goal of Marshall. Other than that, if you can find a capture that fits perfectly in your mix, go for it. I mean, you have NAM, you have this and that. Then you have these one knobs. So we have 3 different types now. And the one knobs gives you a really good amp with some tweaks. But they're still captures. If you have to change anything to fit in the mix, you have to use an EQ. Hey, it's, again, not the same as pushing the amp with some of those knobs. Well, thank you for watching, and hope you join me and subscribe and all that stuff. Feel free to browse any of the electroforming jewelry and art by myself and Mia, and thank you for watching again.